Hi everybody, today we're going to be talking about lesson 32, measuring lengths with a ruler. So whenever we talk about a ruler typically has two sides. It has what we call the metric side, which is measured in centimeters or millimeters, and it has what is called the US customary or standard side, which is our inches or a foot. Now, in the United States, we typically measure in standard. Inches, IN, or foot. Okay, 1 foot, several feet. Okay, 12 inches is equivalent to 1 foot. However, in almost the entire rest of the world, and whenever you're measuring in science, we always measure in metric, which measures in centimeters, cm, millimeters, mm, or just meters, plain M. So let's talk about the relationship between centimeters and meters, and centimeters and millimeters. Okay, millimeters are smaller than centimeters. 1 centimeter is equivalent to 10 millimeters. So if you're looking at the ruler that you have in front of you, if not, pause this and go get one. If you look on the centimeter side, we see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. You should see all the way to 30. In between each of those numbers are little lines. Each of those lines stands for 1 millimeter. And there are 9 lines, or there are 10 spaces between 1 and 2, between 2 and 3, etc. 100 centimeters is equivalent to 1 meter. We're not going to be working with anything that large today, but just so you have an idea. If you flip your ruler over, you'll be looking at the inches side. Again, there are smaller lines in between each of the numbers. Those numbers represent the inches, and there are 12 inches in a ruler, or this is a 1 foot ruler. We'll talk in a few minutes about what each of those lines represents in between the inch markings. For now, we're going to talk about some rounding and a little bit of math. So let's take a look at number 1. The distance across a nickel is about 2 centimeters. So turn your ruler so that you're looking at the centimeter side. And 2 centimeters is how many millimeters? Well, I know that 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. So if I want 2 centimeters, I'm counting by tens, so this would be 20 millimeters, okay, because I'm counting by tens. If I was to make a chart, you guys have seen these before. Let me make a better chart because this one's not very pretty. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so if here I have my centimeters, and here I have my millimeters. 1 centimeter, 10 millimeters. 2 centimeters, 20 millimeters. 3 centimeters, 30. 4 centimeters, 40 millimeters, and so forth. So we can see the relationship. To get from centimeters to the number of millimeters, I multiply by 10. So how many millimeters is the width of a nickel? 20 millimeters. Okay, let's look at example 2. Example 2, what is the length of the rectangle below? Okay, you're going to probably need to make this slightly bigger or look very carefully. Let me see if I can make it bigger here. Oh, no, not going to make it bigger. Okay, so we're going to look very carefully. Each of these numbers stands for the number of millimeters. Notice my units right here. Each one of these little lines counts for 1 millimeter. the slightly longer line in between two numbers, that stands for my 5. So that would be 25 millimeters. So I'm going to take the very edge of my line here, and I'm going to do the best I can and line it up, and it goes right through. So we have 25 millimeters. So we've counted to 10, to 20, and then 5 more. So you need to make sure that you don't just count the 5 from the 20 to the mark, that you start all the way at the end of the ruler and measure this whole distance. Okay? All right, let's move on to example 3. Before we move on to example 3, let's talk about what each of these different lines on here mean. So first we have our longest lines here. Okay, these are our inch lines. But then you'll notice we have lines of different lengths and even different thicknesses. The next longest line, this one, this one, this one, these stand for my half inches. So this would be half an inch, 1 whole inch. This would be 1.5, 2 inches, 2.5 inches, 3 inches, and so forth. So these lines stand for my halves. Okay, the next shorter lines count as my quarters. So 1/4 inch, that would be this one. But then I still count this one as a quarter because I know that 2 quarters is equivalent to 1/2. So I still count this one. This line becomes my 3 quarters. And then I have a whole. Then I have 1 1/4, 1 2 quarters, 1 3 quarters, and 2 inches. 2 1/4, 2 2 quarters, 2 3 quarters, and 3. So these lines I'm counting as quarters. Then there are the smallest lines. These lines right here. Okay? These count as eighths. And with this I count every single one. So I would have 1/8, 2/8 because 2/8 is the same as 1/4. The next one I'm going to have 3/8. I count this half line. This is 4/8 because 4/8 is the equivalent to 2/4 and to 1/2. Then I have 5/8. 3/4 is the same as 6/8. I have 7/8. And then I count this one as 1 whole. So 1 1/8, 1 2/8, 1 3/8, 1 4/8, 1 5/8, 1 6/8, 1 7/8, and 2. So, and it keeps on going. So let's go ahead and look at how long this arrow is. I'm going to delete all this to get it out of the way. Make sure you have written it down. Spread it out, color code it, look at your ruler, whatever you need to do. And so now we're going to look at this one right here. And this arrow lines right up with this line right here. So I know that I have 1 full inch, then I have 2 full inches, and then this arrow lines up with, oh, not what I meant to do. So I have 2 full inches, and then this arrow lines up right here. This is, you can count this in one of 2 ways. You can say, oh, that's the next longest line. I know that that's the half. Or you can say, you know, I'm not quite sure. I'm going to count every single line and count by eighths. So we would have 1, 2, 3, 4 eighths. And then you can say, oh, well, I know that 4/8 is equivalent to 1/2. So this arrow is 2. The arrow is 2 and 1/2 inches long. Measuring by inches is tricky because of all of the fractions. So take your time, really look carefully, and if you need to, leave it in eighths. If you say this is 2 and 4/8 inches long, I will go ahead and accept that if that's easier for you than converting it to a half. Really take your time with the inches measurement. It's a little trickier than in metric. Okay, one more example. Okay, example 4. A mangrove skipper butterfly can have a wingspan of 2 3/4 inches. Is 2 3/4 inches closer to 2 inches or 3 inches? So use your ruler. Take a look at, find 2 3/4. If you need to, think of it as drawing a picture also. Okay? Is 3/4 closer to 1 or closer to 0? So if I have my ruler, okay, 1, 2, okay, so 1, 2, 3. I have 2 3/4. Is that closer to 2 inches or closer to 3 inches? And it is closer to 3 inches. Okay, so when you think of rulers, think of your fraction pieces. A ruler is just broken up into smaller fractions. Each inch is broken up, and so you can think of it that way if that helps. Okay, you will need your ruler for your lesson practice. There are 2 problems, S and T, at the top of page 231, so please make sure you include those, okay? That's it, and we'll see you in the morning.